Hello, beautiful souls. Today, in this module, we're going to talk about self-criticism. Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one because we really need to start tapping into ourselves and figuring out where we are extremely critical of ourselves. Okay, so what is self-criticism? Let's just start with the basic definition. Self-criticism is the act of judging and evaluating oneself, often focusing on personal flaws, mistakes, and shortcomings. While self-reflection can be valuable for personal growth, excessive or destructive self-criticism can have a detrimental effects on our mental health and our overall well-being. So as we go through this lesson, we're going to explore the concept of self-criticism in various forms. And we're also going to learn strategies to manage it and transform it into constructive and empowering forces. Okay. So when we think about self-criticism, I want you to sit there and think, and I even want you to write this down. Listen, and then you can pause this as I'm asking these questions, okay? So I want you to really tap in to yourself and discover and write down the things that you say to yourself that are harsh, that are very judgmental, and that come with negative self-talk and unrealistic expectations. Now, this is critical because, and this is one of the things that I teach often, is if the things you say to yourself, if someone were to say those things to someone that you loved, what would you do? If somebody said the things that you say to yourself to your loved ones, your mother, your father, your children, your sister, your best friend, if somebody said those things to them, you would be ready to fight them. You would be ready to defend them. You would be ready to snatch their head off. So if what you're saying to yourself can't be said to them, then those are the things that we need to refocus and take away. Because here's the thing, self-criticism, how does it affect us? Emotionally, it destroys us. And self-criticism leads to low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, and the biggest one, which most of us feel quite often, is feeling of inadequacy. We feel like we're missing something, we have a void, and that we're not good enough. Okay. How does this affect our relationships? Excessive self-criticism can strain relationships by creating a negative self-image and affecting one's ability to trust and connect with others. That is so important to realize, because here's the thing, and I'll use this as an example because it was on a show and it just really impacted me. There was this couple and the man was struggling with his weight and he felt very insecure about how he looked, how he felt, and all of this. And so he got home one night and his partner, she wanted to embrace him and she had the lights on, and he flipped out and rejected his partner. He hurt his partner because he was so ashamed of what he was feeling within him that he didn't want anyone to see him. He didn't want anyone to touch him. He didn't want anyone to see what he felt he was seeing. But this person loved them regardless. They already knew what they looked like. They married them. They had been with them for years and they had been the size, and they were not judging. They loved them. What they seen was this beautiful soul. But because this person was criticizing themselves so intensely, it created this negative self-image, and it broke down the ability to trust and connect with others. Okay. And I'm sure if you go back and look at relationships in your life, you can see these things. You can see how your lack of trust and has impeded your relationships with others. That negative self-image How and where does this negative self-image stop you in your tracks in life? I know for me, for years, when I suffered with my self-image, I didn't want to go to public places. I always wanted to be wearing black so I could hide. I never wanted to wear bright colors. I always wanted to sit in the back in the corner. If I had to go to networking events, I would find a table that was in the corner or far away from any action going on because I didn't want to be present or seen. And then I would walk out of there feeling depleted, like, well, this was a waste of my time. No one came to talk to me. I'm not worthy of people making extra effort to come talk to me. But the problem was I wasn't making effort within myself. I couldn't trust me. And I didn't know how to connect with others. So take your time doing this exercise to see what negative self-image you have about yourself and how does this affect your relationships. Okay. Performance. Unhealthy self-criticism can hinder your personal growth, your creativity, and your productivity because you oftentimes don't feel that you're good enough to do it. You're not creative enough. When you do get a creative thought, you automatically start to tear it down. Okay. Now, we can create and focus on certain behaviors or actions rather than personal traits. So this is where I want us to get into constructive self-criticism. And what is constructive self-criticism? What this does is it involves an objective evaluation of one's actions, behaviors, and in performance with the intention of improvement. Like I say often, every night when we go to bed, that version of us dies. We wake up the next day, we have a different version because this version, this upgraded version, knows all the decisions that we made yesterday and all of our actions and everything we did, and it's providing us with the outcome that if we do that particular thing again, we already know what our outcome is going to be. Okay. So when we do that and we focus on that and we say, okay, yesterday, da 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 da. Okay, and this was the outcome. So now I can have constructive criticism, self-criticism, and look back and say, okay, I did it this way. This was what the outcome was. What do I want my outcome to be? And how can I shift that to do something different to get a different outcome? This is with us looking at it, not judging, but observing. And when we observe, we are able to improve it, because if we're criticizing it and looking at it as a negative, it's hard for us to see how we can shift that perspective. So that's why I want you to get into it and look at this as an observer, not a judger. Okay. So this is where I want you to focus on the specific behaviors and actions rather than the personal trait. Now, what does this do? This offers us insight. It offers us alternative perceptions. It also gives us actionable steps for improvement. And I want to encourage you to have self-compassion and acknowledgement throughout this progress, okay? So take your time, look at these things and see, how can I change this? How can I improve these things? Okay. All right. So what is destructive self-criticism? Destructive self-criticism involves relentless self-judgment, self-blame, and negative self-talk without any intention of improvement. So what typically happens is we overgeneralize and magnify our flaws and our mistakes. We use harsh, demeaning language and unrealistic standards. We have standards for ourselves that no one, including us, can ever obtain. We expect ourselves to be perfect, and that's just not life, okay? So what happens when we have this destructive self-criticism? It damages our self-esteem and our well-being. Okay. You know, like if for a long time, I would used to say, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not these things. But those were things that were not true. Okay. So I want you to focus on these things, like where are you damaging yourself at? Now, let's now talk into solutions. Now, how do we take these negative things that we've identified, that we've written down, that we hear and we see? Now, how do we fix this? How do we shift this? Okay, so the very first thing is when we're talking about these strategies, I want you to figure out which strategy works best for you. So the very first thing that we have to do is, number one, we have to develop self-awareness. So every time we say something negative about ourselves, we have to put in place something that stops it. Okay? We have to stop that negative talk. So this is where we encourage mindfulness and reflection to identify the patterns of self-criticism. So if you find yourself talking negative in the beginning, record it, write it down, write down those self-critical thoughts and emotions, write them out. Okay. But then I want you to challenge it. Okay. I want you to challenge this negative self-talk. So I'm going to introduce you to what us therapists call cognitive restructuring techniques. And so what this is we teach you how to reframe the negative thoughts into a more realistic and compassionate one. Okay. So when you have these negative thoughts that are coming in your head, or these attacks, I want you to tap into yourself, and I want you to reframe that negative thought and make it more compassionate. Okay. An example I hear from a lot of my clients is they feel like no one is hearing them, that they're not seen, they're not heard, and they're not understood, and they're not loved. So if you sit there and you keep saying, well, no one loves me, let's reframe that and say, I am loved. And then you include all the people that you know that actually love you. Or if you say, I'm not smart, reframe that and say, I am smart. And these are the areas that I'm smart in. Because what I want to do is I want you to reframe that self-criticism by examining the evidence. And then I want you to consider alternate explanations. So when you see this negative thing come up, question yourself to say, why? Give me proof and evidence that what I'm saying is actually true. If I feel like no one hears me, show me evidence that no one hears me. If I feel like I'm stupid, show me evidence of where I'm stupid. Because here's the thing, if you feel like you're stupid, you only feel like you're stupid once you did something and you realized it didn't turn out the way you wanted it. But you didn't have the forethought of the future to know what the outcome was going to be. Okay. I want us to practice self-compassion. And self-compassion is treating oneself with kindness, understanding, and acceptance. We have this for everybody in the world except for ourselves. If someone comes and tells us a story and they're talking about all this, we greet them with kindness and understanding and acceptance. But yet, if that person was saying the same thing we would say to ourselves, and we're saying it to ourselves, we don't give ourselves that kindness and understanding and acceptance. We judge it. So we need to treat ourselves the way we treat others. Okay. Practice self-soothing techniques like self-care activities, positive affirmations, self-compassionate statements. Like, how do you change these thoughts in your head? First is we have to recognize that we're doing it. Then we have to stop it and we have to replace it with the positive things. Okay. Next is set realistic expectations. Discuss the importance of setting achievable goals and acknowledging personal limitations. Okay, so what does this mean? I'll give you an example. I've been wanting to write a book. Okay. But I have what I feel is a personal limitation. I write the way I talk. And sometimes that's not always considered proper, or I in my world, writing is, I can do it, but I'm not great at it. There are people that are great at it. So what did I do? Is I'm like, okay, I'm going to create goals. I'm going to just start journaling all my thoughts and all my stuff. And I'm going to send it to someone that can take it and make it sound amazing. So I acknowledge my personal limitation, but I set achievable goals. Same thing with my weight. I started making the decision I had to get healthy. So what did I do? I started walking every day. I started eating better slowly. I started slowly taking away the things that were not good for me. I did it slowly. And I didn't allow any personal limitations to come in, because when it came to my health, I didn't have any. Now, when I was injured, yes, I had personal limitations. I couldn't go and lift weights and do all these various things because I was injured. But once I was healed, I was able to do these things. But I did not judge myself on a personal limitation when I was injured. Okay. And I want you to focus on progress rather than perfection. Same thing with my weight loss. Have I lost all the weight that I would like to lose as yet? Not as yet. But what I have done is I can tell when I'm running up a flight of stairs, I'm no longer out of breath. That's progress. When I'm getting up off the couch, it no longer hurts or it's no longer an issue. That's progress. I'm seeing muscles starting to form in my arms and my legs. That's progress. Is it perfect? No. Will it ever be perfect? No. But I make progress daily. And that's what I want you to look at. Okay. Now, if you are struggling with this, I want you to consider either reaching out to me and let's work on this on one-on-one. Find some of your trusted friends or family that can help you with this, but seek support. This is important. Okay. This is a deep, profound lesson for you. The way we talk to ourselves and the way we criticize ourselves can impact our life in ways that is just not healthy. So let's change the way we view ourselves. We are beautiful. We are amazing. We are smart. We are valued. We are everything that you want to be. All right. I love you, and I will see you on the next module.